The plan to eventually replace those airframes with the F-35 is still in place. The F-35 program, of course, is under scrutiny and under a review, a technical baseline review, which, when completed, will give us some idea of the potential delays in the program. The money to develop the F-35 as a platform that can carry the new life-extended B-61 is in our program. To answer your question about timeline, the slip of the F-35 in terms of production and delivery and IOC, initial operating capability, is unknown at this time, but it's likely to move to the right. The block of software that makes the F-35 able to carry the new B-61 is the first block of software after the development phase, and that is still part of the project and the program. Because of this delay, our command in Europe, United States Air Forces in Europe, who presents these forces to the alliance, has a number of planning options underway to cover this capability to NATO in the event of a slip. And it involves existing aircraft such as the F-16 and F-15E. And we're confident that through a number of measures, to include the potential life extension of the F-16, to include reverting the primary high readiness mission back to F-15Es, all those options are being pursued in order to cover a potential gap that an F-35 slip might create.
Thank you, General. Turning then from our bombers to our sea-based leg of the nuclear triad. Admiral, today the sea-based leg of the nuclear triad comprises just over half of the total deployed stockpile. Under New START, the sea-based leg of the triad will comprise 2/3 of our deployed stockpile. As the Strategic Posture Commission observed, quote, each leg of the triad has its own value, close quote. However, New START places a significant dependence on one of these legs. How is the Department thinking through the risks of such a policy decision, and how is it managing such risks? And does this greater dependency drive certain programmatic, operational, or I'm certain as you might advocate, resource considerations than perhaps were required before looking at a triad that is certainly not going to be third?
Yes, sir. So as I stated in my opening statement, and as you reiterated there, under the New START Treaty, we do approach greater than 2/3 of the deployed forces. As I would also mention, we also are the survivable leg of the triad. Of course, as we look forward, we are doing life extension efforts in a very planned manner in all of our functional subsystems, in launcher, in fire control, in guidance and navigation, missile, and reentry. We believe that taking a phased approach in a very orderly manner through the Ohio program, which we are required to maintain through 2042, and then using that baseline as the functional SWS for the Ohio replacement program minimizes the risk. We're able now to optimize limited resources. But I would tell you that in the Department of the Navy, from the Secretary on down, we have strong leadership and dedication to the mission and to our requirement to supply this to the COCOM. So I believe that in a trying time of resources, I have a fair voice at the table in terms of achieving and obtaining the requirements and resources necessary to carry out my mission, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. The Nuclear Posture Review stated that, quote, the Secretary of Defense has directed a number of initiatives to further improve the resiliency of the NC3, the Nuclear Command, Control, and Communications System. An interagency study is being initiated to determine the investment needed and the organizational structure best suited to further strengthen the NC3 capabilities, close quote. Individual NC3 programs are spread across the services, and the lead architect in OSD, Networks and Information Integration, NII, is being eliminated. To the extent you can discuss this in an unclassified hearing, please describe the Department's concerns about our nuclear command and control infrastructure, and when do key program and resource decisions need to be made, And when will the Department be able to provide the committee with its NC3 investment strategy?
Okay, well, the nuclear command and control system, as outlined in the NPR, is a very high priority. The Commander-in-Chief needs a reliable, assured capability to communicate to the nuclear forces. I mean, that's a fundamental part of our deterrent. And we have a few efforts underway. One is the former commander of Strategic Command, Admiral Richard Meese, led a federal advisory committee that did a comprehensive review of the NCCS, and we are working within the department and with interagency partners on implementation of many of those recommendations. The dissolution of the NII office will have no impact on NC3. Some of those core elements will be moved to other elements within DOD, such as the Chief Information Officers domain, as well as other parts of the AT&L side of the Department of Defense where I work. We are making investments currently. General Kaler from STRATCOM appeared before this subcommittee recently and noted that the new construction that starts in the FY12 budget request at Offutt Air Force Base includes an EMP hardened command and control facility for Strategic Command. So that is really a central node of the NCCS system. And that's just an example of one of the investments that we're making. In addition, we are upgrading our crypto modernization programs, and those are included in the President's fiscal year 12 address. We will provide additional details to you in a classified question for the record.
We've discussed our bombers and our sea-based leg triad. Now, General Chambers and Admiral Benedict, would you please discuss some of the challenges that you are working through on how you would implement the New START force structure reductions? When will the Department make its final decisions on its post-New START force composition? And when will Congress see the specific implementation schedule and estimated funding requirements?
Chairman Turner, the final decisions on the exact force structure numbers are still being reviewed. The military advice on those force structure numbers is now being discussed among the services and the Joint Staff and with our partners in OSD. That decision, which, as you know, we have reported to Congress in the Section 1251 report of the NDAA for our two legs of the triad, that the numbers will be up to 420 ICBMs and up to 60 bombers. That up to must be defined, and that decision will be made in the coming weeks, perhaps in a few months. We are not yet concerned about the timeline to execute the treaty. The steps taken to implement the treaty in general are fairly straightforward, but on the Air Force side, perhaps the most challenging part of the timeline, although we have a good plan, is the final conversion method for the B-52 force. Once that final B-52 number is determined and we lay that timeline into our plan, we're confident we will be able to execute. We will need to advocate for the funds each year. As you know, we will be implementing both the eliminations and the conversions toward the latter part of the entry into force period. And so in the coming years, as we advocate for these needs in the budget, we will come with those figures.
Sir, excuse me, sir. I would add that, as General Chambers said, we are also working with NNSA, with Stratcom, and with DOD in terms of the exact planning requirements, not only in terms of schedule, but also in terms of numbers, specifically with us, with HEDGE. We're working closely to define those. We have submitted our budget request as part of the 1251. And in that request, we made an assumption that the implementation would be more in the out years rather than the near-term years. Again, as the General said, as we get more definitive definition on the exact numbers and timing, we expect our budget request to be adjusted adequately.
Mr. Larson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was just thinking, Mr. Chairman, how useful it's been to have the two panels today. As you noted early on, it really is sort of creating that continuum, I think, for the subcommittee to understand the soup to nuts on the nuclear security enterprise and how the nuclear weapons play into it, how we deploy, and then obviously following on to treaty commitments as well, and back again to the enterprise and how it supports it. So thanks for setting it up this way. General Chambers, start with you. If I can go back to Chairman's question about NATO, can you characterize what's the response been from allies to the potential or the slipping of this F-35 timeline? Are you seeing decisions and investments that allies otherwise would have made on their burden sharing commitments slipping as well? Are they in a wait and see? How is that? What's the impact here?
Mr. Larson, thank you. Good question. As you know, the current burden-sharing nations who contribute to this commitment to the alliance aren't all invested in the F-35 program. Specifically, Italy and the Netherlands are the two countries that are bought into the program. They have been consulted by the F-35 program office all along the way. They will be fully briefed when the technical baseline review is completed as to how the delivery schedule is affected by a potential slip. They, in their planning, have envisioned this new platform to fulfill its dual-capable aircraft capability to the alliance. But they, as well, obviously argue for the money needed to do that on an annual basis with their governments. Very difficult to predict how that's going to come out. At the alliance level, politically, all current burden-sharing nations continue to be committed to this mission. As you know, at the Lisbon Summit, the strategic concept was confirmed and still includes the mission of strategic deterrence based on a nuclear capability provided by dual-capable aircraft. And all current burden-sharing nations are officially on record as continuing to support that. As this plays out, if the platform slips and governments shift their position, we will monitor that very closely.
Okay. Back to you, General Chambers, and this is a shift here of subject. Can you provide an update on the Air Force's nuclear surety inspection process and how things have improved since the 07 and 08 incidents?
Yes, sir. Since those incidents, the Air Force has committed an increased rigor in its inspection process that actually has been very impressive. It has involved the stand-up of a core inspection team at Air Force Inspection Agency, which is a branch of our Inspector General, and stationed at Kirtland Air Force Base. They form the core and the most, the deepest level of expertise of all inspectors. They supplement and add to the capability of our major command inspectors. The standardization of inspector training has taken place. The development
has that taken hold?
It has taken hold, and we have seen it in the quality of discrepancies that have been written up by these inspectors, the quality in which we share the information across commands about how units have done, the ability to trend our inspection results out so that we can improve. Perhaps one of the most important initiatives has been the addition of root cause analysis, which is a formal problem-solving method to get at the heart of what an inspector has found as a discrepancy and actually get to the root cause. It is increasing the performance of our units, and we've seen, in general, a positive trend in results. We will always look to our inspectors to find problems so that we can get better every day, but this increased rigor, this standardized training, standardized checklists, the use of root cause analysis has all enhanced the commander's ability to do better every time.
Okay. Admiral Benedict, we've had this discussion, not you and I, I'm sorry, but the subcommittee has had this discussion in the past with regards to the Ohio class replacement program. The New Start, though, it was negotiated assuming a reduction from 24 missile tubes per hull to, I think, a maximum of 20. The current configuration, as I understand it, would move from 24 to 16. Can you discuss for the subcommittee here the Navy's rationale for that, for moving from 24 to 16 as opposed to the max of 20?
Sir, as part, excuse me, as part of the workup for the Milestone A with Dr. Carter in OSD, SSP supported extensive analysis at both the OSD level as well as Stratcom's analysis. Throughout that process, we provided from the SWS capability our perspective. Ultimately, that was rolled up into both Stratcom and OSD and senior Navy leadership. And in previous testimony, the Secretary of the Navy, the CNO, and General Chilton have all expressed their confidence that the mission of the future, given their perspectives as they see the environment today, can be met with 16. And so as the acquisition and the SWS provider, we're prepared to support that decision by leadership, sir.
Yeah. And your analysis did your analysis fed into this? Did you look at specific numbers then?
Sir, we looked at the ability of the system. Again, SSP does not look at specific targets.
Sure, right, yeah.
Our input was the capability of the missile, the number of reentry bodies, and the throw weight that we can provide against those targets. And based on that analysis, the leadership decision was 16, sir.
Can you, let's see, I'm sorry, I want to go back to the solid rocket motor industrial base, and I didn't quite understand the response, and I forget if it was Admiral Benedict or General Chambers, about the idea of a production line of 12 and what the necessity of having a production line of 12 meant. Is that because we needed those for replacements, so we need those on the shelf just in case? How do those play out for us?
Yes, sir. When we look at minimum sustaining rate, the first thing we do is the analysis on what is the minimum number of operations that we need to do in order to sustain a viable workforce and experience with both the tooling and the processes from a safety standpoint. We've looked at a number of ranges and through an analysis have determined that 12, basically one set per month, is the right number in order to keep a safe throughput. Now, we don't build one motor set per month. We do build essentially one first stage per month. We build second stages in groups, and we build third stages 4 at a time from a cost efficiency. In terms of production from sustainment, we built the D5 very quickly at the beginning before the Cold War ended. And so we have an aging issue that we also need to address. Propellant, given its chemistry, doesn't last forever. So as we've done the analysis, we believe that we can get approximately 30 years of life out of our rocket motors. So as we look at our production line for the future, both in support of Ohio through 2042 and then entry into the Ohio replacement submarine class, we'll need to sustain production of rocket motors to ensure that we don't have a safety issue with aging propellant in the future.
So as I understand it, the industrial base is important, but the requirement has to do with the safety of the of the motor, the ability, the certainty of it, the surety of it?
Yes, sir. But in our mind, those are linked.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes,
You need an industrial base in order
Yes,
to achieve this, but to achieve this requirement, you set the requirement first, and then that defined the industrial base. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thanks. Is that right, General Chambers? Were you part of that response before? I don't want to have you answer something if you don't need to.
I wasn't, sir. But Admiral Benedict did mention, of course, that our requirements have declined because the Minuteman III propulsion program is recently been completed. So our motors are good right now. We are, through our ICBM demonstration validation program, exploring through engineering and design angles the potential for modernizing the propulsion for our aging issues, which will come later this decade, and we want to look at it with a mind toward a potential follow-on Minuteman III as well.
And if with any luck, Chairman and I will still be here. Deal with that one too.
We'll look forward to that, sir.
Maybe in different positions. We'll see. That's it. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for participating and also for your leadership in the areas that make such a big difference for our nuclear deterrent. With that, we'll be adjourned.